Hey guys, and welcome to Tnashi's Movie Corner. Today we're doing another matchup for the animated tournament that was conducted between my brother and myself, with a friend of mine helping in case of needing to break a tie on opinions here. And I'm doing this one now because this movie was brought up very recently, so I thought it was a bit ironic here. And we're going Under the Red Hood versus Frozen. Two very different movies here. In any case, how we judge these movies is we go by plot, main characters, side characters, songs, humor, villain, cast, romance themes, action, and memorability. So let's get started. And I'm gonna try not to spoil too much if I can. So, when it comes to plot, we actually gave plot to Under the Red Hood. It's the way the movie starts off, and with kind of the I'm trying really hard not to spoil, so this is gonna be difficult, just in case some people don't know about it. But there's a tragedy that happens involving Batman, and the way it opens up with that is very good way, very good intro to a movie, and it builds upon that, where we see now years later this character shows up and starts wreaking havoc, and it's a character that kind of mirrors what the Joker used to be. So and he's just kind of, he comes in and he kind of takes over these gangs and everything, and says, you got to go with me, you got to follow me, and if you do, then I'll keep you safe or whatever, but if you don't, then I'll kill you. And so he kind of comes in and takes over, and he's a new kind of adversary for Batman. And Batman's trying to figure out who he is, because he's the Red Hood, and the Red Hood was the Joker, but this isn't the Joker. The Joker's locked up at Arkham, and so there's trying to figure out who he is and how this guy actually knows who Batman is, and has techniques of getting out of Batman's traps and everything, and what his ultimate goal is, besides having a war go down between him and Black Skull. So that's a really good plot, and Frozen's really simple, and I want to maintain sometimes the simple plots do good, but I think that Frozen's was a little too simplistic in design, and I don't think it just compares to Red Hood's plot. So that's what we're going to go with there. Main character. Now, Frozen actually has two main characters, Elsa and Anna, and as a duo, they're really hard to beat, because you got Anna's kind of quirkiness, with everything that she does, but then you got Elsa and her she has a more serious, kind of subtle personality, but she has some good time moments too. She's the more responsible one of the group, but between the two of them, it's really hard to beat. And the main character for Red Hood isn't Red Hood. We marked him as the antagonist. So main character for Red Hood is Batman, and I'm a huge Batman fan, so it's very difficult for me to say that Batman loses. And Batman does have a few emotional moments in this, for sure. A few times where you really connect with them, but it's just really hard to beat that duo because of everything that they bring to the movie, and you do see different sides of them, and you do see them grow as characters a lot more than you see Batman grows. So had to give it to Frozen. Side characters also went to Frozen. To be honest, Under the Red Hood doesn't have too many. You have Nightwing, but he's just kind of thrown in there a little bit. We can count, say, Black Skull and the Joker, because they're not really marketed as the antagonists. Even though they're both villains, they're not marketed as that for the movie. They're not the main one that we're vying for. However, Black Skull doesn't really have as much of a presence. I mean, he's cool, but he's just kind of there. And when it came down to it, like, Joker's good too, but Joker's also not in the movie as much. Like, he's in at the beginning, and he's in more towards the end, but he really isn't in the entire movie, and you don't see as much showcase for him. So you get some laughs out of him, but whereas Frozen has side characters that are involved in the majority of the movie, and they're kind of really well balanced with Sven, my bad, Sven and Olaf, uh, and I can't remember the other one's name off the top of my head, and maybe it'll come back to me. But either way, those and it's funny because one doesn't even talk, but they bring a lot of humor, and they actually bring quite a bit of heart, and they just kind of they work out a little better, and those are three of them. There's a couple more in there too, like the guy from Weaselton. But songs obviously went to Frozen. Under Red Hood doesn't have any songs, so that was kind of humor goes to Frozen, and I'm a little surprised on that. Like, we went back and forth on that one, but really Anna's the reason why humor goes, because Anna does a really good job with the humor. Olaf has a few kind of the same notes, and for the first bit it's funny, but when you hear it repeatedly, it's not, loses something. And Under the Red Hood has Joker, who is funny. Joker's actually pretty funny. The thing is, though, like Joker, again, he's not as present in the movie as some other people are, and he does bring some humor, but most of the time it's more like chuckles and his laughter, and Frozen just had us laughing a bit more. So villain went to Under the Red Hood because Red Hood is a great villain. He's really well defined. You understand his backstory, where he's coming from. You really associate with him, and you kind of see his reasoning for not only what he's doing, but as far as his motivation is concerned, but you kind of feel like he's doing the right thing in a way, and it's really hard for a villain or an antagonist to do that, to really pull at the audience like that. Whereas Frozen, the villain in Frozen is very kind of forgettable. I mean, they market it out to where it's going to be a surprise, and I'm sure to a lot of people it was, and you get a snippet of his backstory, but you don't get that much. So he really doesn't have as much going for him as Red Hood does. Cast goes to Frozen. I mean, again, Anna and Elsa, really hard to beat, and Olaf too. They're a good trio for cast, and they're very hard. It'd be very hard to replace them, specifically Anna and Olaf actually over Elsa, but all the same. Whereas cast for Under the Red Hood, really, you have Jensen Ackles as Red Hood, and he's a great one, but he's about the only one, because the Joker's different, and Black Mask, it doesn't matter who does them. I've heard no one really stand out as him, and unless you got the OG Batman voice, I can't really give it to Batman. So romance went to Frozen because they had it, pretty simple, and they did a good job of it, I think. Themes also went to Frozen. Frozen had some themes that were a little more standout. They are in your face, but they're done really well, about kind of the sisterly bonding and the art of true love and all that. So that it really works out better. Action goes under the Red Hood. It is full of action. It's there are times where it's really intense. You got team ups, and then you got kind of villain versus and everything. Like, it really works out good. And memorability also goes to Under the Red Hood, because Frozen has one really poignant scene that stands out, and that's her it's Elsa singing Let It Go. Like, that really stands out. Everyone remembers that. Under the Red Hood, you have the opening, you have some flashback sequences that actually do well. You have Red Hood versus Batman. Like, that's a really memorable scene. Like, you have these scenes sprinkled throughout the movie that actually stand out really well. So Frozen only has one. But anyway, for those of you keeping score, unfortunately, Under the Red Hood loses this because it's 4-7. So it's not that close. I mean, there were a few categories here where Frozen got it because Frozen was the only one that had it. But there's a few as well where they both had it and Frozen still won. So Frozen's a good movie, and I want to maintain Under Red Hood is also a very good movie. I would recommend watching it, but Frozen did have a lot more kind of going for it, geared towards it, and so it worked out. And the way that they approached Frozen was they were loosely adapting something, but they were really building so much of their own story. Whereas Under Red Hood kind of harkens back to a comic, series. So there's going to be elements that they assume that you kind of know going into this, and because of that, I feel like it loses just a little bit when it comes to these verses. But I do recommend you checking them out. Anyway, so that's the matchup, guys. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would you have Under the Red Hood win? I'm very curious on your comments there. And please, if you enjoyed this, like my video, subscribe to my channel, and also let me know if there's any matchups you want to see. As always, thanks, guys.